But here's a question. Is it possible for a story to have no contradictions and still not be true?
That's why I asked you to take all 4 tests together. Now,
no, sir.
Fantastic job.
No, please.
Into a classic intellectual mistake.
I asked a question. I have more questions.
I already answered your question.
No, now, sir, you didn't. You replied with, that's why I had to look at all 4. Why are you so upset, Cliff? It's a simple question.
Because you're cutting me off.
Is it possible? Is it possible?
I let you speak. Now you won't let me speak.
Is it? I'm still going. Is it possible for there to be no contradictions and the story still not be true? Yes.
Yes.
Right. Is it possible?
Yes, it is possible.
Hang on. Is it possible for there to be manuscript evidence that the authors were correct, or authors are being accurately reported, and yet their claims are still not true? You've already said that. Yes to that when you were there. Yes. Is it possible for archaeological evidence to support place names, and yet the events still aren't true?
Yes, that's called historical fiction.
Sure. Is it possible?
Style.
Is it possible for you to look at a literary style?
Come on, bud. Let's be honest here.
I'm trying to cover your 4 points, Cliff. Are you so dense that you can't see that? I'm going through your 4 points as a rebuttal to your position. It's possible. I won't even ask the question. Here we go. It's possible for it's possible for there to be no contradictions and the story's still not true. It's possible that archaeology could support place names and the story's still not true. It's possible that the manuscripts could accurately reflect what the author said and the author's still not true. It is possible that the literary style could be misunderstood, story-wise or accurate, and the story is still not true. So the 4 criteria that you gave for determining the accuracy of a historical text are incapable of doing that on their own. You have a failed methodology. That was the point.
Then give me a better one. How do you test the historical reliability of any document? What are the tests?
I don't need to give you a better one. I'm not here defending historical claims.
Oh, baloney. If you're tearing my 4 points down, which you have every right to do, you had better give me a more intellectually acceptable alternative.
No, sir. That's not the way any of this works. You presented a case. I debunked it. Now you have to go back to the drawing board.
Hold on one second. I hate to interrupt, guys. Just to be sure, that everybody can hear each. I do want to just jump in really quick before. So, quick heads up, folks, that will go into the Q&A shortly. By that I mean 5 to 10 minutes tops. But I do want to let you guys continue, as I know you might have some final threads you want to draw together before we do go into the Q&A.
Yeah, when your methodology gets debunked, it's not up to the opponent to present a methodology that would confirm the supernatural. I have no methodology that would confirm the supernatural. Neither does anybody else. You presented your case for why you find these texts reliable. I exposed where the problem is. You don't then get to say, well, have you got a better one? Because that suggests that you're willing to stick with a flawed methodology until somebody comes along with a better one. It's not my job or anybody else's job to fix the foundation of your beliefs. That's your job.
To be a skeptic is good. A skeptic is someone who questions. But to be a cynic is horrendous, because cynicism gets us nowhere. And Matt, you have just displayed tremendous cynicism, because what you've done is you've said, these are the problems with your methodology. And I agree with you. There are problems to my methodology. But Matt, none of us has exhaustive knowledge in any area of life. Okay. We as human beings cannot prove anything. Instead, we as thinking human beings take the evidence that we have and then make the most reasonable, the most plausible conclusions. So my point was simply, the evidence is the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John give us accurate historical information. My point was not that they're perfect. My point was not that they're without error. I never said that. Instead, I gave 4 pieces of evidence that I use whenever trying to determine whether any document is historically accurate or not. Now, the mistake that you're making, sir, is very clear. If I say that a interpretation that I have of the Quran is contradicted by science, in order to be intellectually honest, I have to go back and study, is my interpretation of the Quran correct? Because if my interpretation of the Quran is incorrect, then it is intellectually dishonest for me to say the Quran contradicts science. Similarly, if you have a wrong interpretation of the book of Genesis, and then you say science contradicts my interpretation of creation and of a serpent in a garden, But if your interpretation is incorrect, you're committing intellectual suicide because you are showing that science contradicts a false interpretation. Well, so what? I agree with you. The question is, what is an accurate interpretation of Genesis, and does science contradict that accurate interpretation of Genesis? And my point is rather simple. There is absolutely no science in Genesis to contradict. There's no biology, no zoology, no astronomy, no science anywhere in the Genesis account. That is why for anybody to say, oh, I can't believe Genesis because it contradicts science, is intellectually dishonest, because there's no science in Genesis for modern science or ancient science to contradict. It's that simple.
Okay, so in Genesis, when it lists the order of events that God created, supposedly, is that order accurate to the order that things were actually created?
Augustine answers your question back in the 400s.
I'm not debating Augustine.
He points out, I'm using it as an illustration, Matt, so listen hard. Augustine points out that in light of the fact that the sun was not created till the fourth day, what on earth do the first 3 days mean if you don't have a sun? And Augustine's point was, Genesis is not seeking to answer the question, precisely how long did God take to create?
I didn't say about it.
Augustine. I think that's an accurate interpretation of the text.
Okay. When you tell me to listen carefully, it'd be really good if you did too. I didn't ask anything about how long it took. I asked about the order that it took.
The order, the length are not precisely given.
Okay. So basically you're saying that the order of events in Genesis 1 not only does not match the order of events as we actually understand it from science, but doesn't match the order of events that God did create the events.
No, I'm not saying that, Matt. What I am saying is Genesis does not answer the question. Genesis does not address the scientific question. There is no science in Genesis. Are we clear now, Matt?
Well, there are claims about reality in Genesis, are there not?
Yes, about God, about human beings, about the value of human beings.
About God creating?
Absolutely no scientific claims. Just think about who wrote Genesis. Moses.
I appreciate the fact that you'd like for there.
People sitting in their tents on the corner of the promised land. Do you honestly think Moses was concerned with the question, gosh, what's the scientific process that God used to create? It was the furthest thing from his mind. They were scared out of their wits about going into the promised land. So
this is a wonderful tap dance, but this is a wonderful tap dance, but Genesis 1.
Interpretation.
No, sir, it's a wonderful tap dance because you're avoiding the question, you're avoiding the actual events, and you're going off to talk about other things elsewhere.
No, I'm
My
not.
question is, yes, you were. You literally just did. Rewind. Everybody can hear it. You are not talking about. You are not talking about Genesis chapter 1, sir. I'm asking you about Genesis chapter 1, and you're going off to talk about other things in Genesis. In Genesis chapter 1, when it gives the order of events, you're saying that order of events is not the way that God did it.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I never said
are
that.
you saying?
Let
Are
me
you
say
saying?
it again, then, Matt? Just so you get
Are
it
you
really clear.
saying?
In Genesis chapter 1, there is
Are you
no
saying? Oh my
scientific
God! It's
description.
so. Why is it?
Just to,
why is it?
Let's.
This is absolutely frustrating.
Well,
Yes,
let's
are
kick
you
it over to.
saying-
Let's kick it.
Very well, Matt.
Are you saying? Are you saying that the order of events is correct?
No, I'm saying they
So
don't.
you're not.
author
So you're
does
not saying.
care about the order of events.
I don't.
That
I
is
don't care
not
what
the
you
point.
care about. I'm saying you seem to be
The
saying that
author is not
you seem to
concerned
be
about the order of
saying
events.
you seem to be saying that the order of events is not correct. You're not saying that it's not correct.
addressed by the
Hang on,
text.
let me finish. You're not saying that it's not correct, and you're not saying that it is correct.
I am saying, and I'll say it again for the umpteenth time, Genesis chapter 1 is not giving us a scientific description of how God created. Genesis chapter 1
didn't say it
is
was.
answering the question.
I
who
haven't said
created,
anything
why he
remotely like
created.
that.
But Genesis 1
I haven't said anything
answering the question,
remotely
what
like that.
process did God use?
I didn't ask about a process. I didn't ask about any of that. The fact that you have dishonestly refused to address your own contradiction here is very telling. All I asked about was the order of events and whether or not you were convinced that the order accurately reflected the order, not the process, not how, the order that things happen or not. And you
that is very simple.
You would not say
order
that
is process. For me, order is part of the process.
I'm sorry that order is process for you, but that's not process. I didn't ask how. I asked about order. I don't know why this is so difficult. I do know why. Because fundamentally, you know that this order doesn't match reality, and you have no explanation for why the almighty God of the universe conveyed information about an order that does not match the facts of the universe.
And you have a wrong interpretation of Genesis 1, and you're using science to contradict a wrong interpretation of Genesis 1, and that is very sad, Matt.
You know what's sad? That you accuse me of having a wrong interpretation when I'm the only one that's willing to read it and talk about what it actually says.
I've read all the
that is sad. You are the sad one to suggest that this is a problem of my interpretation when I'm literally asking you for your view.
I told you.
This is the best tap dance ever, Cliff.
Question.
Good job on that.
One does not answer the question.
That's out fucking standing.
Clean up language, Matt.
I don't need to clean up my language at all, sir. You need to clean up your thinking.
No, you need to straighten out your thinking and think more logically. Fantasy puts into illogic.
Thank you.
This might be a good opportunity to go into the Q&A. We do have a lot of questions. We're going to move through these fast. Couple of things, housekeeping-wise, folks. First, want to mention our guests are linked in the description.